Continue our coverage of the men's Masters competition. And the man on your screen there, John McAllister, in action against Shane Thompson. Shane that has won the lag and will get us underway in the first frame. As ever, a big powerful break. Got all but 4 balls in the top half of the table, but none of them have found a pocket. Shane's been spending a fair bit of time in China recently playing Chinese 8-ball. Pretty difficult switching between the codes. See today how he's doing with that transition. John McAllister, meanwhile, has been in pretty good form lately. Really starting to find his feet on the Ultimate Pool Pro scene. This Masters competition is a random draw. If it was seeded in any way, you would assume that these two wouldn't be playing each other at this relatively early stage of the tournament, but that's the joy of these random draws. Tough match for both of these players. We're playing through to a final tomorrow evening, so lots of action to come in the Masters. Up to a race to 8 now for this match.
Station 4.
Well, it says a race to 8, the graphic says a race to 8, and the scoreboard says a race to 7, so we'll see. See if we can get that confirmed. Just had that confirmed, it is a race to 7. We'll get the graphic corrected. This is the last 64, so still a lot of pool to be played. John making decent progress through this frame, but the difficult stuff still to come for him. How he's going to need to cannon into the cluster of the yellow and the 8-ball. He's going to take the ball in the middle of the table along to the top left-hand corner. The way he's played that, doesn't look like it goes past the yellow to the middle. Problem is with leaving this relatively late in the visit, he's now got to make absolutely sure when he plays the cannon that he lands on the other red, which isn't going to be very easy to guarantee from where he is. He's playing the other red first. That makes sense because having to play the cannon and then get position on a different ball than the one you've cannoned is going to be pretty challenging. I think he's left the right angle there this time. He's ended up pretty straight on the red. May just have to screw back for the double now. So the double it is. Double confidently dispatched. So that dry break from Shane Thompson has proved costly. John McAllister straight on the board, and as we take another look, powers this double in. Mark Shepherd and Nick Finn with you for this match. It's like being a good match, Nick. This is another one of these ones that could so easily have been a semi-final or a final, but has come out the hat in the last 64.
Yeah, a tough draw for both players, and Shane comes into it probably just off form a little bit. He's, by his own admission, he's not been practicing as much as he would like to. He's travelling over to China, focusing a bit on that as well. He's over to the States soon to play in the Ultimate Pool event over in Kansas City. But, loves his pool, and we know what a danger he can be. Two top players, and a tough game. Certainly a clash at this point. Is it last 64? Yeah. Neither would have eyed up this draw with any particular affection.
No, it's a random draw, so if you're in the room you hear the draw being called out. This is one that both players will have been a bit annoyed to hear the other one's name.
Monster break.
Sorry, no, I was going to say there aren't any super easy draws, but this is clearly about as bad as it could have got for either of them.
Yeah. Yeah, big break from John. We know what he can do with his break. Bit of a problem there at the bottom of the table for reds and yellows. Probably elect to go for yellows here, I would think. I mean, you could make a case for either. You could play a yellow off that red to open the pocket. You could plant, you know, all kinds of options. A cannon. You could even take the yellow over the right pocket now and come down into that area. You could definitely make a case for reds as well. It's not a difficult ball to promote. Probably actually easier to promote the red. It's just the yellow over that right centre pocket. The two reds that are blocked by that pocket, they go to other pockets. So John electing to go for yellows, and yeah, as I mentioned, that just screwed back there, trying to take this yellow off the red. Would have loved to have come back another roll, just be a little bit straighter. It's great when you play these shots and they're right in your eye line. When you're looking down the barrel, they're way easier than if you're playing across into a blind area. When you're playing to a blind area, it's just that little bit more guesswork. I still fancy it though. So yellow off the red. Doesn't have to do too much with the red, just flick it out and then all the yellows are there. Nice shot. Played it at a great controlled pace as well. He's away now. Great chance for 2-0.
It's a great chance, as you say, to catch Shane a bit cold as well. He flew back from China and then had to come straight up here last weekend for the Ultimate Pool Pro Series. So had a few days obviously to acclimatise now, but it is very tricky, both the travel and the switching between different games. Particularly for someone like Shane, he's got a game that's built around timing, and normally supremely good cueist gets through the ball beautifully, but the timing is slightly different when you're playing with a different size cue ball, so he's got to recalibrate himself for this one.
Yeah, I should say his whole game based around his cue ball. When he controls that cue ball, keeps it on the string normally. One of the best exponents. He's up against this powerhouse John McAllister, who's really come into form this season. Just seems to be getting stronger and stronger in this field. Always a dangerous player, always has been. Former world champion in a different discipline.
Yeah, I think just starting to feel very comfortable in these conditions. He's played in a lot of Ultimate Pool events which are in broadly the same format as this. So he hasn't got the match clock for this match, but playing with the same table and the same equipment out in the pretty similar arena. That kind of familiarity really helps you.
Great stuff, 2-0 to John McAllister. I said it before, I said it again, Mark. I mean, there's just something. I've been up to Blackpool. I've been to many events over the years. Been up to Blackpool a couple of dozen times for different events. all of the Ultimate Pro events. There's something special about this weekend. Well, not just this weekend, the whole couple of weeks. Players flying in from all around the world to compete for the Holy Grail. It really is. It's just wonderful to come up and see all these different players from different nations. There's a buzz about everything that goes on. The TikTok table out in the foyer is just busy all weekend, and they're getting some amazing hits over there. If you're into your TikTok, do follow the Ultimate Pool. They've got action on that table all weekend. The youngsters were playing there. We had Jordan Shepherd out there earlier on playing against some of the under 18 players, which is fabulous just to get them involved. And as I say, it's just a whole buzz. It really is electric. Every table in action is just pool all the way. If you ever get a chance to come up to one of these events, please do, because they are just wonderful. Huge break from Shane Thompson. Absolutely brutal. Times it beautifully well. Cue ball straight back up the middle of the table. That's lovely. I think he's been a bit unfortunate because he'd love to go reds. I'm not sure he's on one. He actually can get through this gap. He is on one. Just looked across at the overhead and he had the gap there. So this is not a difficult finish now. I think the red just below the 8 ball passes to right centre, so he can just drop this one into top left and hold for that red. He's got an option of all 3 balls here. Take the one to top right and then the one to left centre next. Wants to finish straight or just below straight. I think that's absolutely hand perfect. The only shot he really needs the time now is the one on the cushion. He's just giving it a look. Maybe he's just come half a roll too far. I thought this was the perfect angle, but just looking at the overhead, I don't know if we can get a view of that overhead. It just shows he's just slightly off angle. And you see just that slight off angle. Wow, and that meant that, goodness, I mean, he absolutely powered that ball in. He still went forward, which is quite unusual. Maybe very strange. I thought the way he was queuing up to that, he was coming back, but powered it through. I think it's because maybe he felt that from the ball on the cushion, he couldn't get good position on the one at the bottom of the table, then come back up for the 8 ball. So he kind of was trying to get further down table to take this one to bottom right. To then, it gives him a simpler 2 ball finish on the one on the cushion to get onto the 8 ball. I think that was what was in his mind there. Wanted to come down table further. Obviously the cannon on the yellow just kept him up the top of the table, and this is a quarter ball thin cut. You could just focus on the pot. Just worried about the pace of that cue ball. I think it's just held another inch or 2 at pace, and he could have been in trouble. He can just dink this in. Lovely.
And that's a good indication of how well he's playing, because that previous shot was a very delicate judgment of pace and he floated it in perfectly. Completes the clearance, so both players looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, that's Shane Thompson at his best there. That's cue ball was pretty much on a string, maybe just half an inch out of pace, out of position here and there, but almost perfect.
Just coming back to what you were saying at the beginning of the frame, there's just something so special about the fact that this is a one-off tournament. Somehow having that World Championship or World Masters in the title, it's only once a year you get this chance. It's not like pro events where if you don't have a good weekend you can come back a couple of months later and have another go. It's not many people that get their names on these trophies and get to describe themselves as a world champion or a world master.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, you know, in 30 years, in 40 years, in 50 years' time, the same as we do now when we look back at the early 90s and those first World Championships, you know, we look back with fond affection at the previous winners. I was talking to Tony Holgate earlier about that 1996 final that he was involved in. You know, when you win that world title, no one can ever take it away from you. You look back 50 years on Wikipedia and it's still going to be there. Well, Wikipedia probably won't be a thing. It'll be some kind of new technology that we haven't dreamt up yet. But it'll always be there, carved into the record books, that you were world champion. No one can ever take that away from you. It's a legacy you leave behind for your kids and grandkids. My granddad was a world champion. Really is amazing.
Both of these players know what that feels like in different ways. John McAllister has been an individual world champion. Shane has got multiple world team titles with England. That break was a textbook example of how straight to hit the break. Despite the enormous pace he had on it, it was absolutely flushed down the middle of the table.
I think John is quickly turning into one of the best breakers in the game. I mean, he's always had a monster break, but I don't think there's anyone that's as consistent as him at flushing the front of the pack and bringing the cue ball straight back up the middle of the table. I can't think of anybody in the game. I mean, Tom does it time and time again, but it's just on repeat for John McAllister. It's literally like a carbon copy every time. It's amazing. You're almost surprised when it doesn't come up the middle of the table. And as a result, he rarely gets kicked in off. You rarely see a foul from John McAllister's break. I mean, obviously it happens now and again for sure. You're going to get kicked in off, you're going to just get one slightly wrong, but as a percentage compared to other players, it just doesn't seem to make those errors.
And that's all part of the overall success percentage. There's no use smashing hard into the pack if you lose the white and going off, then you're just handing over the table, which is a bad thing to do if you split the balls up well. And of course, having the powerful break, you leave yourself slightly easier clearances afterwards. Still got to do the hard work, but he's left himself a great opportunity here.
Always interesting to look at the stats between the two players. If we look at Shane Thompson's career, 173 matches, 58% win rate. It's a very good win rate, 38% loss, 4% tie, and 1,606 frames, 55% win, 45% loss. Conversely, we look at John McAllister, less frames because he joined, less matches, less frames because he joined UP a little bit after we started. He's got an incredible 108 matches, a 67% win rate, which is fantastic. Just shades it with Shane. He's 951 frames, a 57% win rate compared to 43. So quite a close comparison between the two. John just shading it. Just shows their consistency. Anything over 50% obviously is going to be exceptionally good. You're going to be a winning player. You're edging it in your favour.
Yeah, and actually you'd be surprised how close to 50 you can be and still be a top player. You actually only need to be slightly over to achieve much better results. Often there's maybe a perception that the top players are winning 100% of the matches, but with the exception of a couple of the wild runs that Tom Cousins has been on recently, that's not usually the case.
Just looking at the rest of the games around the rest of the arena, there's a little storyline unfolding. Jordan Shepherd, who's in the last 32, we've seen him a few times on stream this weekend. He's playing Cole Bedford. Cole's currently beating him 4 frames to 2. I had dinner with Jordan earlier, and he said he finds it tough to play against Cole, and Cole always seems to pull out the best of his game when he's playing against Jordan. Seems to bring out the best in him. He's doing it again. He's 4-2 up. John just turning his palm up and a little bit disappointed with the way the cue ball reacted there, but he's still on this 8 ball and you expect him to nail this. Oh, goodness me, I definitely did not expect him to miss. I know it's a little bit tougher than he wanted, but I think, you know, if he played to land in that position, I think he gets it. It was just because it didn't end up where he wanted it. You kind of saw that little bit of frustration, and that put a little bit of doubt in his mind.
Tried to go with the positive option. He really punched it into the pocket. You'd see some people just trying to dribble it across the table and leave it on the draw of the pocket to fall in for itself. He tried to play the positive way, but pushed it wide in the end.
I wasn't sure the shot before. I'd be interested if we could see it again. Just I don't know whether there was a little kick or something. It just seemed that John was a bit frustrated about how the ball reacted. Maybe there was just a little bad contact there or something, which left the cue ball closer to the cushion.
Could that be a turning point in the match? This is a chance that Shane should never have had. Let's take a look at that previous shot.
Strange one. Didn't seem to make strangely, but I mean, there was obvious frustration.
Yeah, I mean, he caught it a bit thick. I don't know whether he feels he caught it right and it had a slight kick which made it go thick, or if he just caught it, was frustrated with himself.
Yeah.
Either way, he just potted it a bit on the thick side.
Shane will be taking these in the order they are from top to bottom. The first one's already gone. Second one to top left. Third one to middle. The one down the rail leaves the 8-ball waiting. Doesn't want to be too straight on the yellow. He just wants to leave a tiny angle. Doesn't want to really. I mean, it won't matter, but I mean, yeah, that's okay. He just wants to finish with the cue ball just off the cushion. Just so when he plays the one down the cushion, the cue ball comes away from the 8-ball. Otherwise, he's left with a similar shot to the one John's just played. Yeah, so he can just float this in. Cue ball comes a few inches off that side cushion.
And these are the frames that can win matches. This may have looked a simple clearance, but it's a frame that he shouldn't really have had a chance in. It's going to be one that's sneaked to the wrong side of the scoreboard from John McAllister's point of view. Such a big difference as well. Could have been 3-1 to John, whereas now as he's sat in his chair, he's fearing the worst, that it's about to be 2-2.
Yeah, big turning point that. And as I say, I think, you know, if John McAllister, I'm talking about that, I mean, if John McAllister had to play a big positional shot and just ended up landing where he landed, then I think he would have just been like, okay, I've got a shot at it, I've got to go at it, and gone into it with like a positive mindset. But because he'd either whatever it was, whether he'd had the bad contact or just didn't hit it quite cleanly, the frustration was there, and that played on his mind, and ultimately that has cost him the frame, cost him the 8-ball. It's meant that it just shows how much it's played between the ears. That little bit of negativity that was in his mind just meant that he pushed the ball. A shake of the head. Still frustrated.
He is definitely a player that shows a bit more frustration than some of the top pros. I mean, when you see him in his chair, he probably looks upset more than he looks happy a lot of the time out in the arena, regardless of the scoreline. Just everyone's slightly different mannerisms, though. It clearly doesn't affect his game, judging by his results.
Cole Bedford now 5-2 up on Jordan Shepherd. Don Cooney 4-2 up against Odie Bell. Victor in Labar 5-0 against Liam White. We watched Liam White in the previous round. Comes for a tricky game against Owen Amato. He's going to have to pull a big comeback. He was 5-1 down in that match, and he's 5-0 behind now against one of the French international players. Over on stream table 2, the current world champion Clayton Castaldi 2-0 up against Jack Schofield.
It's a big ask for Clayton, coming in as the defending world champion, to try and emulate that feat again in Blackpool this year. The title he picked up in Malta last, in Morocco last, I should say.
Greg Batten is 5-2 down against Oliver Lawrence, another young English player.
Yeah, he's a good player, Ollie Lawrence. He plays at a club near me. You often see him practicing in there, works in the club as well, so he puts plenty of time in on the table.
Is he one of the junior players, under 23 or something? Is he? I'm not familiar with the name.
Yeah, he's a youngish guy. I'm not sure if he's playing age group, or I mean, he's been around for a while. His dad's a very good player as well, so he's a known quantity. I'm not surprised by that result. It's the thing. You come to a tournament like this where there's a few names that you may not recognise, but not everyone's going to recognise all of them, but there's just so many good players floating around in that draw.
Yeah, actually Ollie Lawrence came up against Tom Cousins in the main event in the World Championship.
This is looking good from Shane. I think he's going to be happy with the way this match has gone, both in terms of how many chances he's been given, but also his own performance. He's looking very smooth on the cue, which is what he normally looks like when he's playing well.
So in the 7:30 session of Masters Play, these matches in Trafalgar, table 16, Fraser Adams.
Some announcements going on in the background. Plate competition underway for those that lost in the early rounds of the main draw.
Turn around here from Shane from 2-0 down.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of turnarounds, haven't we, already? That one you mentioned earlier, Liam White was in all sorts of trouble earlier in his first match, but found a way out of it. He's going to have to do exactly the same thing in his next match by the sound of things. This Masters competition kind of nesting in the middle of the World Championships. It's been the case for quite a few years, this format. Players that have been here all week for the main World Championship draw, and then a load of additional players come up and supplement them for the weekend. So really this is the kind of peak of the tournament. There's so many players, as you were saying earlier, around the venue. It's just a real buzz about the place, which is nice. Like, everyone's happy to be here. I think a few players that aren't playing in every event but just come as this as a one-off. It's sort of one of the big moments of their season, so everyone's excited to be here.
Someone else who's having a great weekend this weekend, a young man that you normally see in the referee shirt refereeing these tables, young Jake Cooper. He's currently playing Ross Dunn in the Masters. He's 3-2 up, but I know Jake is in the under-23s, still going strong. I'm not sure what point they're at, but he's definitely still going. He's also in the under-23 Scotch doubles, and I think they're in the quarter-final of that event. He's having a great weekend as Jake. He's traded his referee shirt for his player's shirt. He's enjoying his pool.
Yeah, he loves his pool, doesn't he? He's at a lot of events in both of those capacities. That England under-23 team has been so strong. They've ended up having an A and a B team in a lot of events just because there's so much strength in depth. Luke Gilbert, of course, tearing up that division for so many years, but now it's past the magic 23 number, so somebody else's turn this time.
He's tried to hold for the top red of the two. For the top red of the two, he's just come a little bit far. It's a thin clip. I think it's still just on. Whether he decides to take it or not, it's a different matter. I think the one, just below the yellow that is on the right-hand side rail, I think it does squeeze past the 8 ball. Pretty sure it does. So, yeah, he is going to go for this thin cut. Wanted to be a couple of balls higher than this. No drama though. Still okay. Does have an angle to come down and move that red, but definitely passes the 8, so he won't need to move it. He can just stun this in, draw back an inch, and he's going to be absolutely plumb.
Well thought through pattern this, because he now doesn't have to do anything. Potting that ball down the rail when you don't need much position is a much easier proposition than if you've got to force it in. You see there, just able to leave the cue ball pretty much dead where it was. A very sort of effortless style when you watch him strike the ball. It's very easy power that's required. No power required for these last few shots though. Just a series of stop shots and roll-ins.
Yeah, they're quite similar in their style. They've got very, very nice cue actions. Very silky, smooth cue actions. And the mechanics are superb from both players. There's very little that can go wrong. with the mechanics of their cue actions. If you see other players who are a bit more erratic, it's often because it's what those players who fly when their cue action's good, but when it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong. And these two, they just really are very consistent.
John will be relieved to get that frame, because having had the lead earlier on in the match and a good chance to add to it, should already have been 3-1 up, then to find himself 3-2 down, the match was starting to go in the wrong direction.
Jordan Shepherd's pulled one back against Cole Bedford. It's now 5 frames to 3. Carl Sutton 3 each with Robert Brady. Irishman giving Carl a run for his money. Aaron Davis, who will play Jordan Shepherd tomorrow morning in the last 32 of the Worlds, is currently 4-1 up against one of the French, Leo Ostrowska. Cue ball just squirted off the front of the pack over towards the right cushion, which tells you it just came across the front ball just slightly. You could see it just hit, just didn't quite flush. You can see the look on Shane's face from that. But he's got success. He's made a ball. If you can find an opening yellow, he's got an opener. This one's top left. The yellows aren't too bad. It just needs to navigate this first shot. Just drop this in. If you can find the gap between the two yellows, you should be perfect. Oh, he missed it.
It was a difficult pot, that. You didn't expect him to miss it, but it was actually wafer thin. It was right on the jaw, so very easy to catch thick like that.
It was the fact he was playing it with side as well, playing it with a lot of side to ping off the top cushion and come through that gap. Obviously, when you play it with side, you know the cue ball's just going to bend, only fractionally. I mean, it's only going to bend a few millimeters across that distance, but you have to take that into consideration. You have to judge the bend, and if you get it wrong, you're going to miss the ball. Dot finish for John. And that's why Shane knows it was so big, because this would have been his dot finish.
Very painful when you're sat in your chair watching the other guy pot the balls that should have been yours. It's the nature of the game at this level, though. Both of these guys well used to that. Reminder, this match is a race to 7, 45-second shot clock. No match clock in operation though, so subject to the time taken for each shot, the match can go on for as long as it requires. We will reach a result.
Just a touch straighter on this yellow than he would have liked. He would have liked to have been just a ball across to the left, and then he can just stun it in and leave himself the one to bottom right. I mean, he's still got them. He's going to have to punch this in and force the cue ball across. Yeah, it's amazing how much angle you can make off of these straight shots just by punching them and using a tracer side.
It's made this look very easy, hasn't it? It just seems like he's in some sort of practice position, just strolling around the table, just taking a time out there as the actions continue on the next table, something just blocking his path. It's not normally open to a player to request a timeout, but there he was unable to play a shot.
Yeah, just deciding whether he wants to come back on the right hand side or whether he wants to leave the gap. Easier position to find the gap, but a lot more traffic that way. If you come back, you can't fail to have a shot on the 8, but it's a harder position, and he does decide to come back. Just showed his cue action there, just dinked that in with no pace at all. Got the cue ball right back where he wanted.
So we see his partner Danielle Randall looking on in the background. She's going to be happy to see her man go one frame ahead again. We saw her play well against Marion Jude earlier, but came up short in the ladies' Masters.
The game's swinging one way and the other. John McAllister had the advantage. Shane Thompson wrestled it back, and now John McAllister with his nose back in front. Jordan Shepherd's pulled another frame back against Cole Bedford. And now that's 5-4. Rab McCulloch's through against Jamie Clements, 7-3. Carl Sutton is edged ahead of Robert Brady, 4-3. Ernie Bell's pulled a couple back against Dom Cooney and now just trails 5 frames to 4.
That'll be an entertaining match, the Early Bale Dom Cooney one. Seems to all be happening pretty quickly, judging by the updates on the scores. So, having hyped up the straightness of this break, let's see if John McAllister can repeat that feat.
Don't let me down, John. Never in doubt. Straight up the middle of the table. Just got a tiny kick on the way, which pushed it over to the right, but it was arrow straight off the front of the pack. Just shows he's absolutely nailing the accuracy to be able to do that centre to centre and screw that cue ball back up the middle of the table. It's what every pool player strives for.
And it's especially impressive the fact that he's lifting his head up. It's not like he's just trying to play it as a completely normal shot. He is trying to put extra power into it. See how far through his arm goes. Cue extending down the table.
It's interesting because when we watched in the Pro Series last weekend, he was playing that centre to centre break, probably playing it at about 60, 50, 60, sometimes 70% of the pace, certainly at 50% at times of the power that he can get. He really dialed it back. He's going at them again full-blooded here though. Reds are lovely.
We wouldn't have been able to predict who was going to win at the beginning of the match, but we definitely have predicted that we were going to see an attacking game. Two players with a very good break and two very good break builders when they're in amongst the balls. That side hasn't really disappointed so far.
I think he wanted to take the red furthest to the right here, to right centre. He's just finished a touch high on it, and he's going to cannon the other red, and that could spell danger. So he's going to take the one to top left now and just pick a different line. Yeah, he's got that ball long now.
Longer shot, but a clearer shot, less traffic to negotiate, so it makes the position easier for him. So from that angle, not a load of space to work with, but a clear shot at the pocket.
Yeah, he's just on the one to bottom left. He's looked at it a few times. I think he's just there. I mean, he's got the one to middle, but again, he's got a massive angle. And the cue ball will be running harder to control. May have to use a cannon to control it. If he's on the one to bottom left, he will take that. I think he is. Yeah. Oh no, maybe he's going for the middle. Nope. Had me fooled a couple of times there. I couldn't quite see how he was cueing that.
Great chance to open up a two-frame lead here. Great time to do it as well. A bit more angle than he wanted, so he's going to have to go up and down the table, but that's not a problem because the 8 ball's just hanging there waiting for him.
Yeah, just uses a bit of check side to hold the cue ball into the middle of the table for a simple 8. Back into a 2-frame lead. He had a 2-frame lead at the start of the match and Shane fought back. Shane's going to have to fight back again here. Trails by 5 frames to 3.
Not much to choose between them. It just feels like we've seen a bit more of John McAllister. Just had a few more chances at the table. looking pretty clinical right now.
Yeah, Shane's not done too much wrong.
It's going to be annoying for either of these players to lose in the last 64. Both players that are quite capable of going much deeper into this tournament.
The wonderful thing about this competition is that it's randomly drawn at every round, all the way through to the death.
Yeah, it's quite nice to have these different formats. You see, very different from the main World Championships where the seedings do matter. This is a very open draw in every sense of the word.
That deserves a ball. Just really flush that pack.
How has he come up dry from here?
Look at the burst of balls. I mean, there was a red heading towards the middle and it got kicked out. Just not his day today by the looks of it. He's certainly not out of it yet, but John McAllister with this, oh, it's not a difficult finish, and this puts him on the hill. He's got an opener. Red to right centre, another one to left centre. Take your pick. Probably play this off the red. So I say maybe play it off the red just to release the red out, but he's happy. I think he's going to screw back into it now. Actually, looking at it from here, the red is actually a little bit higher in the pocket, so it wasn't an obvious ball to take that red off of. I thought it was just a bit lower than it was. So he's looking now to come back. A half ball connection on the yellow would be absolute perfection. He's not going to move it. I don't blame him. He can land it, it will go. But he's overhit that positional shot. He's got a recovery ball. May still be on this one to bottom left. I think actually he is. Looking at this camera angle, it looks like he's taking the one to middle.
On table 25 in the Lancaster.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He didn't need to move this red. He can land on it.
And again, turning it into a dot-to-dot looking finish by the quality of the positional play. He's played a couple of those kind of slight cutback shots very well. Can't necessarily quite see the full pocket from your eye line. Judged it well. Now just dot to dot on the right hand side, right middle, right corner, and over to the bottom left. This is exactly how he wants this match to go. If he can get himself onto the hill 6-3 up, he knows that he'll have at least a couple of chances to convert. The only real mistake this match from John has been that missed 8-ball earlier on, where he pushed a shot, slightly more difficult version of the shot he's just played onto the far jaw. No mistake that time. 6-3 now in this best of 13 match. John McAllister 1 foot already into the last 32.
Another quick run through the other scores. Jordan Shepherd's pulled another one back. He now is 5 each with Cole Bedford. Carl Sutton against Robert Brady, 4 apiece. Aaron Davis 5-1 up against Leo Ostrowska. Dom Cooney, Oli Bell 5 each now. Good comeback from Oli. Craig Nicholson 4-2 up against Shabba Japal. Victor in the bar has beaten Liam White. Well, the scoreboard says 6-2, so either that was a concession or they're not timed matches, so they didn't run out of time. It could be that the scoreboard just wasn't moved on. Looks like a 7-2 victory. Clayton Castaldi now 4-0 up on stream table 2 against Jack Schofield. Oliver Lawrence now 6-5 up against Greg Batten. Pushing the UP Pro all the way. John McAllister's turn for a dry break.
And that's what this tournament's all about. It's an open draw for this World Masters, so you get some good players that turn up and find their way into that draw. Good chance for a bit of giant killing.
By John McAllister's standards, he almost mistimed that one. It was so bad it was almost a miscue. The cue ball went up the left side of the table. Amazing. Unheard of. Not a bad layout.
Shane can only do what's in front of him. He just needs to take these balls. He can't be worried too much about the scoreline at this point.
The problem here, Mark, the red at the top of that line of 3 yellows only goes to top right. He can drop this one in the middle and leave that ball next. He has to play it dead weight and then leave the gap. Yeah, he just played it with a trace of check side just to hold the cue ball. Just needs to play another delicate little positional shot onto the ball at the top of the table. He's going to screw off the side cushion. Plays those shots so nice. I mean, it's so easy to just overhit those slightly, leak the cue ball up in behind the yellow, and then suddenly you're in trouble. But he plays those so nicely. He's got such a lovely, delicate touch for a big fella.
Yeah, it's like an artist at work when you see him go about a clearance. So precise with his cue ball.
Just overrun that one by an inch, and it really is just such a fine margin. It's just an inch, because if he's an inch to the left, then he can just stun across. This one on the rail, may still be able to get across there, but he's going to have to pinch the pocket and punch over. He couldn't, so he's come back down table, and it still links up. It still links up well. He can drop this in, and then it looks like he can drop the red into the top right pocket and then leave the gap between the top 2 yellows. He could go high and just take any danger. It really depends on the angle that he leaves on that red. If he finishes on the cushion, you'll see him go high. He could still go high from this angle. It really just depends on choice now. He can leave the gap between the 2 yellows or come up into the near the bulk line. Shane, he's just got there, but I think his heart would have been in his mouth just for a split second. I mean, it's finished perfectly, but I thought he'd underhit that one for a second. I mean,
yeah, all the margin for error was further across the table. There was no prizes for ending up short on that ball.
no. I mean, he landed plumb. So what can you say?
He's done well to hang on in here because John's been playing pretty well. Shane hasn't ever really looked like he's going to get out ahead in this match. But sometimes it is good enough just to hang on in there. He's going to have to do it the hard way though if he is going to win, because he's going to need to win a further 3 in a row.
Jordan Shepherd's now won 4 in a row against Cole Bedford and leads 6 frames to 5.
So meanwhile, on the other side of the arena, the world champion continues his relentless march. 5-0 now against Jack Schofield.
Yeah, Jack, one of the under 23 England players, I believe.
26-24.
It's another one of those players that's talked about in the conversation for the greatest ever break.
I think his heart would have been in his mouth just for a split second, because that cue ball seemed to want to go in that top corner pocket. It bends towards the side rail, gets kicked again.
Yeah, that very last kick could have been nasty. Just pushed it away from the pocket, luckily for him.
It's not the nicest of layouts. It's okay. Well, actually, I say that because I thought this one at the bottom of the table towards the bottom right pocket I didn't think at first glance that he could get to the potting angle, but when we look at the overhead, it might be there. You can see from there, may just be able to squeeze. Oh, Shane, that is unforgivable, my friend. Trying to squeeze the yellow off the other yellow and just didn't get it right.
Done the thing you really didn't want to do. Invite John back to the table. Shane knows that any mistake could be his last.
Yeah, had to take that opportunity. If he makes a clearance there, he puts the pressure firmly back on John McAllister's break. Just let him off. John with work to do though.
Really like to get it done. You can already see Shane starting to get back into the match. Doesn't want to find himself in a deciding frame.
The yellow that's on the bottom cushion may be John's friend here. If he can land somewhere near that bottom cushion, he could play it off the bottom of the yellow or red just to open that little conundrum up. He's going to have a go at it here though. He's going to play this cushion first. Oh, it went past. So this is the shot I was talking about. So you can play this, either graze the red or the yellow. Probably the yellow.
Yeah, it's an easier shot to judge, isn't it, if he flicks off it that way around.
Yeah. Yeah. John put his finger, I think he's showing you where he wants the cue ball to land for the red, his next red, to the right hand side. He top the cue ball through because the red and the yellow will be gone. He flipped it on the way past. It's a great shot. He's opened the pocket up. I didn't realise that he had the angle to run through and give it a flick. Nicely done.
Always nice to get it done at the first time of asking. Just to wrap the match up 7-4 rather than getting into a tight last couple of frames.
John has some of the best vision in the game. He's pulled off some incredible shots over the years. Some unbelievable kind of plant doubles and all kinds of things that he's got up his sleeve. He sees the game so well. Slightly hamper cueing. That's his concern here. He's just taking an extra second over it because he's going to have to cue those yellows, and now he's looking at, I think he's looking at playing this off of the yellow to widen his ankle to make it easy to get the cue back up table. He's fooled me a few times during his clearances so far, so who knows. Yeah, it was off the yellow. It just makes it easier for the positional shot. Again, he's just standing there looking a bit concerned, but I think he's okay. You take the one to middle. If we play it kind of in the top half of the pocket, the yellow actually helps it because it ends up going in off the back of the yellow. Even if you go to like knuckle first, it's one of those shots. He's got half a pocket there, and I think you can just screw back for the red to bottom right, unless the red doesn't pass the bottom right. And I think that may be the problem actually. I don't think the red passes the bottom right or bottom left, so he needed to try and get below it. And that's what he tried there. Tried to get below the red. The yellow got in the way and foiled the plan, and now he's got a very, very thin cutback.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to control where the cue ball's going here. It's going to be flying pretty loose.
Never seen John map out the finish like he is, coming around the table and looking at exactly, trying to work out exactly what the cue ball's going to do. What are we looking at here, John? I think it's the path of the cue ball. Trying to cannon the yellow on the right hand side. He'd be very unlucky not to be on the 8, and actually he's on it perfectly.
Well, that's the answer to the question. That's what he was mapping out. Found a route round the back of the yellow ball, nicely on the 8.
Top performance from John McAllister, take nothing away from him. Just didn't quite come out for Shane Thompson. A couple of little mistakes and a couple of dry breaks really were the difference there, but it was a sublime performance from John McAllister, you have to say. It really was. He looks full value for the money at the moment. He marches on into the last 32 for Shane Thompson. It's going to be the trip home. Well, not quite yet. He's still got some work to do with the England team. They've got the shootout on Monday. I'll be looking forward to that one. Yeah, it was a nice performance there from John.
Well, it was, and it was good tenacity there because he started off very well and looked like he could run away with it, and then Shane pulled him back into the match, and in the end he had a match on his hands. So he takes the congratulations from Danielle. He books his place in the next round. We'll be back with more action from the men's masters at 8:30.